Chapter 4, Hypnofreak. Oh god, this song was difficult to figure out, and I believe that you too had confusion around this song's plot because the characters seem to be positioned in such a strange way regarding their role in this story beat. Now, if you aren't in the know, then it's important to know that for some reason, Mocha tries to hypnotize Gron, and that Mocha is positioned in framing to appear as the dominant character, as well as within voice lines. However, it should be noted that the actual song itself and not the music video, is non-canon. So we're primarily going to be looking at the music video. But if lines appear that seem important, I'm gonna point them out, but that's important to know for future reference. Mocha wants something from Gron, but it's never clear, however, it is implied and revealed in the stream later. Now, if you think that Mocha could never do this, you need to remember the eyes. When we look at the shots with the pendulum, we see Gron being the one hypnotized because of the green eyes. Also, Ivy Combe is the only one in the song singing, and as we know, Ivy only voices Mocha, except for that one time in Data Reject. This further cements Mocha as being the main force of the song, if that makes sense. A lot of Mocha apologists will say that this is just Gron hypnotizing Mocha, but that would rely on Ivy not coming out and saying that Mocha and Gron are basically the same person, just one is from another universe. So now to the real question, why is Mocha doing this? Information and to bring Gron to his side. Mocha does not care about this world. He wants to go home and he needs the support of City Council. To go on another tangent, I've been referring to the City Council without telling what that's about. The story of Antihuman takes place in a location that Ivy Combe, in stream, has referred to as the Golden City. The only members of the GCC, Golden City Council, that we know of are Daryl Candy, Taw, and maybe two other characters. I put an asterisk next to the two in the script. It's basically just confirmed that in the Twitch stream that goes over unexplained lore of Antihuman. Also, this is referenced in the book that Mocha has at the beginning and end of the video. Just the city, not why Mocha is here or the reason for hypnosis with Gron. However, it is implied that this is necessary. I think Mocha is trying to hypnotize and possibly brainwash Gron and would play into the idea that they are truly just the same person, just mirrors of each other. Mocha hides his dark side until it's required to get what he wants, which is to get home regardless if it gets in his way. Gron embraces his dark side while still working for the betterment of others. He understands that his outgoing appearance seems vicious, but still does what he can for others, such as risk their life and brutally alter their physical and mental form. While Gron is running a cybernetic slave ring, Mocha is fully willing to destabilize the entire structure of the Golden City just to go home. As stated before Mocha, instead they could tear down everything and start again, even though Antihuman Inc. was already very well established by the time that he and Gron met. At least the cybernetic subjects are technically built from dead or disabled people, so their opinions don't count. That was a joke. It says here in the script I've been rambling about nothing, but, that's not exactly 100% true. But we still do need to talk about what's actually said in the song, though it is possibly non-canon. However, the song does support that Mocha has a very dark side. The song starts off with a note, Hypnofreak, near Antihuman Incorporated. We see a journal with pictures and notes, pictures displaying Gron and a character, we'll bring up later, with a note reading, "Don't be scared. We chose this after careful consideration. This is the only way we can chase him out into the light." Meaning that Mocha, or whoever left the note, had to psych himself up to the task of interrogating his alternate self. Mocha's doing this because he truly thinks himself the hero. It's a good way to create a multi-dimensional character. See what I did there? It also mentions the CEO of Antihuman and how she and Gron are always seen together. Learned her name was M, but the rest of the name is covered by the pendant. And she's the CEO of a makeup company in the Golden City. And another detail is that there is a tower in the bottom left corner that says none in or out. What is important to note is the fact that the journal points out that this is an unknown building in the center of the city. Unknown to Mocha, that is. Now, it's obvious this building is Central Tower, but because this building isn't in Mocha's universe, it makes sense he doesn't know what the tower is called. Nice attention to detail. Also, Love Cut V did state that the tower itself is a living organism. So, do with that information what you want. I don't know how to go about this just yet, but it is important to note. Okay, now we're going to start talking about the lyrics, and I know that they aren't canon. Probably, I have no idea. But it is important to bring them up anyways, because there's not really much in the way of visuals, only through the beginning and end of the song, and a few parts in the middle, but we'll get to that. The song starts out with, bring out your notepad and write how you're oh so sad, pathetic to our nation, discourseful syncopation. So when I first heard the song, I didn't realize that it was Mocha singing and not Gron because of how he talks. But with the context of what's going on, it makes way too much sense. However, it could just be Gron thinking about Mocha in his head. You know, normal stuff. Mocha is talking on behalf of the council, I think, and talking down to Gron. Or he could be talking, or Mocha could be talking to Gron directly and stating what he thinks, because the Golden City does also exist in Mocha's universe. However, he sees Gron as not good for the city. He also brings up how Gron sings like crap for some reason, which is what discourseful syncopation is referencing. Nobody knows what that means unless you have a major in music or whatever, but who has time for that, am I right? It's all a ruse, but you want to believe the truth. Don't even want you here. Let me be loud and clear. I believe that it's Gron thinking this, or saying this, but, you know, the lyrics aren't canon or can be applied, but I'm going to bring them up anyways. This song is definitely very confusing if you don't have the context of the lyrics being non-canon. Why need to be so obsessed? You've got a screw in your brain and a hole in your chest. Now here's the fun part. This could be referring to how Gron shut the door and ended up envious of others around him for leading happy lives. Never stated, but heavily implied. He probably ended up here because of the loss of somebody or something, which implies his slightly maniacal appearance, but well-intentioned goals. It's unknown if this is the case, but still, that's the theory I'm sticking with. It's a bit too late to change up your course, so cave in and feast on your fears. You'll feel no remorse. Gron proceeds to trip balls. Mocha, what the hell are you doing? Mocha sends Gron on a drug trip for some reason. I can neither confirm nor deny that Mocha is outright torturing Gron. For info, but based on how the story has gone so far, example, clinically depressed bat, cybernetic slaves, it makes sense that Gron's alter would resort to violence to get info if that was part of him to begin with. Also, remorse is highlighted in green, Gron's color. Highlighting this word could mean so many things. 1. Does Gron feel remorse for the suffering he has caused? 2. Why does Mocha think he would feel no remorse feasting on his fears? Who the fuck knows? Now, this portion of the video has been going on a bit longer than it should, and I don't care. This song is important, so I'm gonna milk it for all it's worth, as I will invest as much time into this video, because I love Ivycomb, and I'll do anything to garner the favor of this beautiful beast. Returning to the song. Mocha mocks Gron. How did your dream go? Would you say that it was slow, or would you wish to race for human warm embrace? You're such a weakling. Why not just give in to me? I'll make you so nearly irresistible. Mocha is indulging in the dominance trait that he and Gron share because they are basically the same person, but Gron does it objectively better, and you can't argue against me. At this moment, Mocha is testing Gron with the concept that he doesn't really want to turn people into cute, fluffy, demented animals, but I do not believe that Gron is malicious, and neither is Mocha, but both can behave a bit dastardly when they need something, though Gron is forgivable because he's just a silly little guy. So anyways, Mocha repeats the hole in your chest bit before we cut to a dark rap segment which holds some important info. I think that you could be stronger. Don't give in, hold on a little bit longer. Compartmentalize your lies, cries, wiser guys compromise. High ties, snuff the fire, bring your A game, mayday the naysay. Fight your demons, erase your brain case. Will your fight, bring back the might. Mocha, dragons rise above all below them. Uh-oh. So this is going to be a lot to unpack, especially that last line. But we will get into that. Mocha understands that Gron is the same being as himself and wants him to live up to how Mocha sees himself. A powerful being. Or so he alludes to himself as. But Mocha obviously has a self-serving shadow that requires himself to be the hero, and if he views Gron to be the villain who needs to be saved from himself, I can't 100% prove this, but is very loosely implied through how Mocha talks down to Gron, fight your demons could be alluding to the trauma that pushed Gron to do the things he does throughout the series, and how Mocha is attempting to help fix him. Air quotes, attempting to help, air quotes, fix him. Now let's look at the final line, dragons rise above all below them. This is interesting for multiple reasons. Because Mocha and Gron are the only dragons we've seen in this series so far, or at least obviously implied. I don't know where Mocha comes in between Bring Back the Might and the Dragons line, but I think we could apply it to both. Now hear me out. I know Mocha is closer to Might than Dragons, but this name is singled out in the video for a reason. I don't think that any detail is highlighted without reason, because if we applied Mocha to Dragon's line, then it would imply that Mocha sees himself as the original. Lining up with the detail in the book, he points out that Gron is the doppelganger, despite Mocha being foreign to this world. It would also give Mocha a note of superiority, further explaining why he would do what he has to in the video. Also, I just kind of realized this while going back over the script. It says, will your fight bring back the might, as in like a question, or at least that's one way of interpreting it. I used to think, like, will as in using sheer force of will to bring back the fight, or to the might, or whatever, but it's phrased more as a question. No, I will not go deeper into this in the video. In the end, we see how satisfied with the results Mocha is when he shuts the book, giving a warm smile until he gives a menacing smirk, looking at the camera as if telling us he is aware of what he's doing and he's enjoying it, or at the very least satisfied with the results. Before we end the chapter, let's just recap. Mocha has a hidden dark side and is willing to do whatever it takes to get what he wants. Cool! Okay, I was gonna originally do this video a bit longer, but I also wanted to do it in chunks. So, this is the end of part 1, unfortunately. It's been a bit, so we should all kind of take a breather. I will begin recording the second video immediately, but it will also not be animated. So, I'm glad you made it this far, as it kind of shows you have a little bit of interest. But other than that, thank you for watching, and stick around because the next video is coming out relatively soon, hopefully. Anyways, thank you, like and subscribe, goodbye!